The Warwick Worcester League yesterday, I gather it kicked off in style. What happened to the gravel?
We were rained off. I'm going to be my usual diplomatic self, and I'll say that the green was unfit for play due to puddles on the green.
Right.
No more than that,
Yeah,
really.
there's a message coming on the screen, slight puddle. Are you being very cautious in what you're saying here, Steve?
Well, I think there aren't many games that would have been called off.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure ours was probably the only one.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Because the problem is you're calling games off is when you can rearrange them, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's at this stage of the season as well. I think the new rule is that you must play the game within 21 days, so
Right.
it's going to be pretty soon.
Yeah. King George V won it last 2 years. They've done remarkably well. I mean, a few years ago, it was the George and the teams like that who were dominating Warwick Worcester. King George V seem to have come from nowhere last couple of years.
They're a great side. I believe they're a really top team with some real excellent players.
Yeah. What do you think's turned them around? Paul Emmons, maybe?
No, not really. No, I think Paul's added to the mix. I think when they got Paul Lamb over, he seemed to kick-start things. I think Paul Lamb's a quality player.
Yeah.
And they're a crowd of blokes who've stuck together, worked at it. They're a proper team. I believe they are.
Do you think they'd be favourites to win it third time?
I think they are favourites to win it again, and I hope we're going to be chasing after them. But I see that, personally, my idea, the main rivals to King George is the George, the George at Warlow.
Yeah. I mean, they've been the last couple of years. They've been a little bit quiet, really, haven't they?
For them, they have, but they're still what I would call the professional side. That the way they do things. I think they're just still the side to follow. I know King George have got the league title the last 2 years, but the George is still going to be there.
And what about the gravel?
We're very hopeful. We're not going to say we're going to do this and do that. We're in a transitional period, if you like. We've picked up some very good players this year, potentially top quality.
Okay. We've been asked a message on here saying, Steve, come on, what about Moseley?
Yeah, I'd be amiss to miss Moseley out, really, because Moseley, I think last year Moseley had 6 county players, and you don't have that kind of, squad and not be close. I mean, last year, the trouble with Moseley for me is that they are capable of chucking in a bad result at home, but they're a hell of a side. There's no doubt. But I think it's a good league. I mean, there's probably 4 or maybe even 5 teams that could win it, but you've still got to reach the levels that King George have set, and previously the George and ourselves.
Yeah.
Moseley are still pretenders, if you like.
And what about the teams who have been promoted?
Well, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for them. I think the teams that have been promoted know that the step up from 2 to 1 is massive, and you can't afford to lose your opening games, as Drakestrom did yesterday. I mean, that was a shock result for me. Moor Lane winning on Drakestrom. I saw Drakestrom as having half a chance of being a mid-table side. Now they've come up, lost the first game. They're virtually favourites for relegation.
Would it be fair this year to say, Steve, that in previous years in a lot of leagues we've seen 1 or 2 teams dominate? It seems in Warwick and Worcester this year we're seeing potentially 4 or 5 or even 6 teams angling for the top position. Would you say that's correct?
That is correct, and I think that's only good for the game. I think it's better that there are more teams in with a shout.
The other thing, Steve, as well, I mean, as in Warwick and Worcester, you've got your Premier Divisions and you've got the Alliance, which is mainly your second teams. Now the George, their second team, have joined Staffordshire this year because they weren't allowed to come into the main league. I mean, do you think it's a bit of a backward step? Sure, there's some good second teams that could probably perform well in some of the higher Premier Divisions.
I think the George are the exception to the rule there. I believe that the George have been pushing to get their B team, if that's what you want to call it, entered into the senior sections of the leagues. And I think that would have been the way forward. Having failed that, they've decided to break away from the Warwick and Worcester and enter this second team, if you like, into the Staffordshire League. And I believe that they will find themselves in the second level in no time at all, and even first level.
Yeah, I think you'll find that. I mean, in Staffordshire leagues, it is just mixed. I mean, this year both Chadgemore and Woodfield have got second teams in the Premier Division, the top flight this time. For the first time, we've got two second teams, and you know, if the teams are good enough, then if they earn the right, then they should be playing against the best.
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea. I really do.
Yeah. Someone's just put up on the screen now that it's Staffordshire's gain and Warwickshire's loss.
It probably is. The only good thing that will come from it is that we'll actually give another team in the Warwick and Worcester a chance to win something, because the George have so dominated it for so long.
Yeah, that's quite correct. And of course, does it mean now we could play a county match on the George, Staffordshire?
Yeah.
That's the burning question. Could we actually play Warwick and Worcester on the George?
Hopefully not.
No. No, I don't think we go that far. You might be wanting to say, I suppose your teams are registered as the Summit League, so you might want to play. You might want to play a county match on Woodfield.
Yeah.
Of course, the Summit League does make choice of the greens a little bit difficult. Everybody's playing now. Like when Staffordshire play Warwick and Worcester, it's going to be a very, very difficult choice, isn't it? You know?
Yeah, I don't think any of us have really thought too much about that, but I think as the years go by, I think that's a very valid point. I mean, yeah.
What will happen, I don't know, unless Staffordshire decide to take it to Heath Hayes, which has been a bit of a graveyard for it. Can it be third time lucky?
Is that what you're saying, that we're going to be playing on Heath Hayes?
Oh, I'm not involved. I'm not involved in counter selection. I won't be committed to anything, Steve. You know, but it's true. I mean, the Brummies have really been a bit of a nightmare green for it, hasn't it?
It has, and I hope our selectors are listening closely to this.
Yeah,
tonight.
I mean, we can't beat anybody else on it, so we don't know. But anyway, that's it as far as the county is concerned. As I say, the Summit League again kicks off tomorrow night. It's going to be interesting. We've got the fixtures. Chadgemore play M&B, which is a big local derby. Windmill play Langley, the two bottom place teams from last year. Nordley are playing at home to Tamworth in Arden. Woodfield against King George. I mean, I'm sure King George will be going there. Probably second favourite, but we'll fancy it first game of the season, won't they, Steve?
They will. I think that's a good game. I think Woodfield, again, this harking back to what Anthony said earlier, I think they've got some excellent players at Woodfield. I don't see them being a pushover at all at home. So, no, I think King George are going to have their work cut out there.
Yeah. And in the new division, any predictions on some of those opening fixtures? Well, you know more about some of the teams than I do.
Yeah. If you like, the Great Bar Sutton Park, again, that's a local derby. Both sides over 8. I'd have to go for Sutton Park. I don't... What you've just said about Heath Hayes, West Brom supporters, they won't thank me for saying this, but they may be the weakest of the Warwick and Worcester sides that have come in. Over 8 players, though, I'm sure they'll give a good account of themselves. I see Bolmere as being an excellent team over 8 players, but so too will Kings Norton, and Kings Norton on that green, for me, will just about edge it out. Moseley, we've already mentioned Moseley, over 8 players. I'll be honest, I don't know much about Baddesley. I don't know what the green's like. But I can see Moseley. It's
a nightmare of a green, I believe.
Is it really? Well, I can see Moseley being challenging for the title, along with, as you've said, St George's and Sutton. Drakestrom have had a bad result on Saturday. Yeah, maybe they'll win at home. St George's, big favourites. Can't see them losing. And Leal and Dudley Dow. Well, my mate Jamie Broadhead has joined Dudley Dow, and I'm hoping that he'll bring them some luck in that game.
Yeah, Dudley Dow, quite a good side. They finished, I think, 4th in our Staffordshire League last year, so that they could do quite well. And again, they've got a good home green. Yeah. Anyway, I think we're now coming towards the end of the programme for tonight. It's coming near to 10 o'clock. I hope everybody has enjoyed this evening. You've been listening to Talking Bowls Radio, sponsored by Thurston and Osprey Irrigation. I'd just like to thank Steve Wallace for coming in and joining us tonight. I hope you've enjoyed it, Steve. Thanks very much.
It's been a pleasure.
So until the next time, everybody, from Talking Bowls Radio and me, Mel Evans, just remember, it's only a game, so enjoy it and good night.